This is how to coil and uncoil a rope the OSAT way. Make sure that you have the ends separate. So you're going to start by finding one end of the rope and toss that away from the pile. You're then going to take the rest of the rope, flake a nice pile on the ground in front of you until you get to the other end of the rope. So to start coiling, like before with the kiwi coil, if you have a hood, put your hood up. It's going to be really annoying if you have your hood down. It'll get all tangled in the coils. So start by putting the rope up behind your neck. You're going to take the end of the rope that's on top of the pile, and I'm going to add about 6 feet of extra. So this is what we're going to use at the end to tighten the bundle together. But for now, I'm going to take that much rope and just toss it away on the ground, and I'm going to ignore that for now. The rest of the coiling, you're going to do trying to make them all the same length. So I put my hands about on my hips. That's about the length I try to go for here. You do this by alternating which hand you're going to be reaching and making coils with. Since the end of the rope is over there, I'm going to start by using that hand to reach across, grab the rope, and bring it up and over my neck. See, this hand that was stationary is what sets the length of the coil. So then I'm holding the rope over here now, reach across, grab that rope, bring it up and over my head. So I'm using my thumbs to hold the bundles of the rope, and that's setting the length. So again, reach across, up and over, reach across, up and over, reach across, up and over. So you're just going to keep doing that, alternating hands until you're all the way to near the end of the rope. And if at any point this becomes too much to hold, depending on the rope, how long it is and how thick it is, you might not be able to hold this bundle with your hands, especially if you have smaller hands or maybe your shoulders are getting tired. So at any point in the middle you need to reset, you can let go of the bundles and then grab the rope strand and then start over. And just start making new bundles. As long as you're making them about the same length, then it's fine to reset whenever you need. So I just started making a new set of bundles on top of the old one. When I'm getting close to the end of the rope, I know to stop when I have about the same length of rope on the tail end as I did on the starting end. They don't have to be exactly the same length. So in this case, they're about that much different, which is fine. But you want them to be about the same. And the way you can adjust the length, you see these ended up being one end of the rope on either side of the bundle. That doesn't really matter. They can be on the same side. But what matters is that they're similar length. So if this one's a little bit too short, you can actually undo a bundle, and that'll add a foot or two. And similarly, if the tail end is a little too long, you can do one more bundle, and that will make it shorter. So in this case, it's now too short. Just do your best. They don't have to be perfect, just close enough. Now I got both my tails. I'm going to leave them for now until I get the bundle off. So this is where it was important to put your hood up, because you got to get these bundles off of your shoulders without tangling them. If you have really big hands, you might be able to just kind of scoop the bundle and lift, but especially for really long rope, like 60 or 70 meters, you probably won't be able to hold the whole bundle like this. So I actually will use my forearms. So I'll put my arms through the bundle and then kind of lean forward, and then like a robot, you kind of pick it up and off of your shoulders like that. So now you're going to find the middle of the bundle, and since I'm right-handed, this is my right hand, I will drape the rope on my left hand, and I'll just use my left hand to hold the bundle up in the air, and I'll use my right hand to start the bundling process. So I'll find the two ends, and since I can hold this up in the air with my right hand, I can actually go under the bundle without having to let go of the rope. You see? And then when you're doing subsequent wraps, it's really important, you see right here, that every subsequent wrap is above the previous wrap. So this is the first wrap, this is the second wrap. You see I'm making an X. And that's important because it holds the wraps together. And then every subsequent wrap you put on top of the previous wrap. So wrap 1, 2, 3. You see I'm doing this without having to actually let go of the rope because I'm going under it with my right hand. Alternatively, you can hold it with this hand, right? Push it around, grab it with this hand, let go. You know, you can use this hand as like a little staging area, but it's just really important either way you do it that you are pulling each coil nice and tight against the bundle. So this is like as tight as you can make it. So then once you get 3 or 4 wraps, that's about the minimum to hold together. Once you do that, and before you've completely trapped your hand in the bundle, you want to make sure you can get your hand out, right? So now you're gonna do the finish, which is a little different for us. So I'll use my legs to actually, my knees to hold this bundle together. So we're gonna take a bite of rope and pass it through the bundle. See, like that. So this is a bite, and we still got about 3 feet of tail on this side. Should be about perfect. Okay. So then our little trick here is you take a second bite, pass it through the first bite. So like that. You got a bite through a bite, and you still have the tails free. So now you pass the tails through the second bite. So you end up with a bite through a bite, and then the tails go through the second bite. And now this part is where, as you're starting to cinch this down, you kind of flip that second bite down over the first bite. So it kind of turns into this double girth hitch. This is way more stable than doing just a single pass through. So see, these tails end up pretty close to the same length and about the same length as the bundle. That's pretty ideal. You know, if they were half that length, that's also fine. If they were twice this length, I'd maybe do another wrap or 2 around here before finishing it, but it's not that big of a deal. As long as the bundle is tight and it doesn't come undone, having the tails be a little bit different length or even a couple feet longer than this is totally fine. You can toss this in a backpack or a duffel bag or whatever. You can strap it on top of your pack if you need to. So that's the OSAT coil, and it will not come undone until you tell it to. You have a nicely coiled rope that stayed coiled all through your transportation to a climb or a field trip. If somebody hands you a rope that looks like this, you know how it was coiled, so you know how to uncoil it in a way that doesn't create a tangled mess. And that's really important because if you're setting up for rope travel, your to-do list is already pretty long before you can head up the mountain. So getting a rope uncoiled and set up in an efficient way is really important. And if you mess this up, it's pretty easy for you to create a situation that takes 5, 10, 15 minutes to untangle, especially if you end up with a bunch of knots in it. We start with basically the exact reverse order that we put into coiling this rope. So you're going to pull the tails through that first bite, then pull them through the second bite, and then pull the bite through the bundle. But now, before you start to uncoil those wraps, I like to put my hand through the bundle, because remember, this is butterfly coil, so this is the middle of the rope, right? So I'm going to hold that with my left hand and start to uncoil these with my right hand, and you see I end up holding the middle of the rope. In this case, I have one end off of one side of the bundle and the other end off of the other side of the bundle. That might not always be the case. You might end up uncoiling it like this, where both ends are on the same side, and that's fine. But if that is the case, you want to then just take one of the ends, doesn't matter which one, and separate it. So you're going to throw one end off to your right, and you're going to take the other end and throw it off to your left. So my ends are separated, and that's really, really important at this stage, because if you don't manage the end of the rope and it somehow snakes its way through the bundle like this, and you throw it on the ground, you're going to end up with knots. And if this is a 60-meter rope, you end up with a knot in the middle of the rope. You got to snake 30 meters of rope to untie that one knot. So really important that you are finding the ends and separating them. But at this point, if you've done that, one of the best parts of your butterfly coil is you can essentially just take it like this and toss it flat on the ground. As long as your ends are separated, you should be able to essentially just start flaking rope right off the top of the bundle. So let's say you're setting up this rope for a rope team of 3, where you need to find the middle of the rope. So You can flake half of the rope into a pile on the side, just eyeball it. Flake the other half of the rope into a pile on your other side. And if your rope has a middle mark, then you can just flake 2 piles until you find the middle mark. And if it doesn't, you can just eyeball it. But now you got the middle of the rope, you can grab the 2 ends and you can measure it out for rope travel. So no knots, minimal tangles. It only took a couple of minutes.